Hey, this is the Creative Psychotherapist podcast, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for your continued listenership and support of the podcast. Um, we are getting close to having 20,000 downloads, which I think is pretty amazing. Considering when I started the podcast, I wasn't sure if anybody would want to listen. And so I'm just grateful for your continued listenership and support. And I'm excited to bring this next episode, which is part of our regular programming. We're taking a break from the Voices from the Expressive Therapies Summit series that we had brought to you with a really amazing group of people. If you haven't listened to those interviews yet, I highly recommend checking them out. And so this is the first episode getting back into the regular um, programming. And this interview is with art therapist Stephanie Wray. And Stephanie is based in the Tampa Bay area. And we just had a really wonderful conversation about her shift into creating an online community space, but utilizing her skills as an artist, an art therapist, a yoga teacher. And so she shares, what she's doing in that regard and her approach to marketing this and community and getting it off the ground. So if you're thinking about creating something like that, you definitely want to check it out. I really enjoyed speaking with her and just appreciate her and her work. And so I hope you enjoy the conversation.
The Creative Psychotherapist is the official podcast of the Creative Clinicians Corner, a practice-building resource for creative psychotherapists. TCP Podcast is the cast for creative, expressive, and experiential-focused psychotherapists curious to learn how to design, build, and scale a thriving private practice. Your host, Raina Lombardi, interviews successful therapists about the tools and strategies they have used to develop creative-focused practices. They also talk about the products, services, and side hustles they have developed using their knowledge and creativity to enhance their therapy practices, make a greater impact in their communities, and diversify their income streams. Welcome. Now here's your host, Raina Lombardi.
Thanks for listening to the Creative Psychotherapist podcast. I'm your host, Raina Lombardi, and I'm very excited to welcome my next guest. Her name is Stephanie Wray, and Stephanie is an artist, an LMHC, a registered board certified art therapist, a trauma-informed expressive arts therapist, and yoga teacher. In her work over the last 6 years, she's responded to 49 natural and human-caused disasters through the arts. She's been working with clients one-on-one during this time as well. In addition, she's taught at the University of Tampa and recently started an online community, the Art Flow Lounge. Stephanie is also launching a personal private practice in March of 2022, Art Flow Therapy, where she'll serve women who are experiencing effects of past trauma, anxiety, grief, and chronic illness. Welcome, Stephanie. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you today and share a conversation with listeners. I guess let's start, as an art therapist, what made you decide to create the Art Flow Lounge? And maybe we could start by sharing what exactly is that?
Okay, so the Art Flow Lounge is an online community. It's a membership-based community. So what that means is it's a monthly fee, or you can pay by 6 months or a year. And inside the Art Flow Lounge, we use the expressive arts to take care of ourselves, to decrease stress, to kind of shake it up a little bit so we're not feeling like we're living Groundhog Day. The other part of it that was really important to me was breaking it down into small increments. So most of the things inside the lounge are like 10 to 15 minutes.
Hmm.
So within, like, you have a dashboard that has videos. I have about 25 in there right now, and they're in categories of meditation, yoga, visual art, and writing. And so people
Beautiful.
can just go in, click play, and do the meditation or the art or the yoga, whichever they want to do. And then once a month, we have an hour-and-a-half workshop that's led by myself, and that's super fun. And then I have a guest speaker once a month. So this, like, what month are we in? About to be February. We have someone coming to teach us about face yoga and Pilates.
Face
So
yoga.
that's kind of what we do. We have a face yoga. I didn't know it was a thing, but yes, it is.
Nice.
And I know, I'm really excited about it. So I try to bring in, we have an astrologer coming. So I bring in things that, maybe people aren't into. We've had someone talk about self-love, and it was really cool because they brought in all the stuff about polyvagal theory and all of these things that I didn't know that they were going to talk about. So it was really beautiful because that's what we're working on. But my approach to it is what made me want to do it was that I feel like a lot of people won't try art stuff or yoga or any of those things because, they feel like they have to be able to do a headstand, or they feel like they have to be able to paint a portrait. So these very specific ideas can be tied to art and even meditation. I can't stop my mind. So all the things that I've heard for so long about why people can't do it. So I really wanted to challenge that and say, yes, we can do it. And we do that through, first of all, removing the expectations of what it is. Really, when we make process art, we're making marks on paper, or we're squishing something, or I mean, it's not, high level. But, and so when you break it down to that small of a thing, then someone's like, oh, yeah, I can make a mark on a paper.
Right.
And the same thing with meditation. Like, you can do 1 minute of meditation. You can do it, So I really believe in that a lot. Starting off with a 1-inch square. It's from something written by Anne Lamott that I read when, like, in the 90s, and it's always stayed with me. Just when I get, overwhelmed or scared to do something or any of the things, I always say start with a 1-inch square.
Small
Other
piece.
people say that to me and it makes me mad. I'm just kidding. Yeah, just a small piece. Just take a little bite.
Yeah. Well, a 1-inch square is definitely less intimidating than, a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of paper.
Totally. I mean, I would even sometimes, as an artist of, like, I don't know, almost 30 years, I get intimidated by a blank canvas, but I can paint it blue and it's much better. And that's not hard, right?
Yeah.
But you have to know that. You have to have a space where you can come to learn those things, so you can be surprised at what you can actually do. And even when you're just mark making, how beautiful that can be sometimes. Or if it's not beautiful, that it's okay to tear it up and recreate something out of it. So, as an art therapist, I'm definitely approaching some of these things in the way that we do as art therapists, right? Just in terms of, like, how we move through a process of something that we're trying to work through, but doing it in a way that really focuses on the art and the person, rather than trying to make any kind of story about it, even though a story comes out of it. But so that's the line, right, between therapy and just doing art for de-stressing and stuff. So one of the things that I really emphasize, and I have, disclaimers and all the things, is that this is something that can really be an adjunct to your therapy with someone else.
Yeah.
Right. So, this is because you're going to learn stuff about yourself.
Right.
And it's going to be just enough that can be really helpful for you if you're working with a therapist, or you're in group therapy, or you're with your clergy, whoever, right? So, there's very clear boundaries about what it is and what it isn't. As much as I can control that, right? I mean, I can't control people's emotions, but I try to make parameters safe and clear, and, let them have resources, if they need more than the Art Flow Lounge, right?
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And what made you decide to create this membership community? Was it like, were you having people like ask you for something like this? Did you have clients looking for something adjunctive, or colleagues that were saying, I need this kind of space? How did you know um, that this was needed?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I necessarily, it was kind of intuitive. I don't know that I knew that it was needed.
Mhm.
And, I did do market research and see who's out there doing something like this. And, people will think, oh, it's good if no one else is doing it. Well, actually, that's not always true in marketing, because that might mean that your idea isn't good, if no one else is doing it.
Right.
So I found a few people doing similar things, but not exactly this. When I think the thing that really made me want to do it was, because I've been a process arts facilitator for a long time. That was pre getting, all my education and things. I know the power of it.
Mhm.
Like in 1 hour, it can completely change something for someone that they've been struggling with, and they don't even know why,
Sure.
just because they did this thing. And
Mhm.
so it connects them to this movement or this art or this meditation or whatever it was. So I wanted to do something fun. That's the first thing. And
Mm.
I find the art super fun. So, outside of, and even inside of therapy, but, I wanted to create something that was different than my practice, that I could have fun with, that was more playful. And these were my initial thoughts, right? And that was easily accessible for people. I wanted to set it up in a way that people with different abilities could access it. So I've got like written things, I've got video, I've got, I'm trying to cover all the learning styles. Some people just come to the lives, they like the lives. So
Mhm.
it's evolving, it'll change. I just launched in December and we're in February, starting February. So, I'm learning as I go. I love it so much. I want to keep growing it and be able to show up more personally, but I have to
Mm.
grow in order to be able to do that. So, I mean, really, it was kind of, I guess, a little bit selfish because I wanted to have fun and I love people. So I wanted to have fun with people in the arts. That was kind of my idea. And also, a lot of people are stressed out right now, and there's a shortage on therapists pretty much, or people don't
Mm.
have as access. So I thought, well, I know yoga heals, it helps, right? All these
Mhm.
things that I've been trained in and that I use, I know they help.
Mhm.
So even if they can't get direct trauma therapy or whatever it is they really need, or they're not even in the window where they can do that work right now, right?
Sure.
That happens too. If we're in major pandemic going into the third year in March, some people, we just don't have that capacity sometimes. And it may change forever, the dynamic of what therapy is. I don't know. I have so many thoughts. But excuse me, I wanted to have fun. And so then I really started thinking about like how much we need that to be able to handle the hard stuff.
Mhm.
Like if we're
Mhm.
not having any joy or anything that we enjoy or being able to express ourselves other than words, right? Then when the hard thing comes, it's much
Mm.
harder to deal with it because we're already
Yeah.
kind of stuck.
Mhm.
So my idea too was, have people fill up more because we talk about it all the time, self-care and all these things, right?
Right.
And so it's just like when you have things coming at you, because even no matter how you feel about the pandemic or how you feel about any of that, it has impacted us all on some level,
Absolutely.
whether it's not being able to get your favorite brand of crackers. That's a thing at our house. Um, or, you've lost a loved one. I mean, it's a whole continuum.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I just think, yeah, so there's so many things that really made me want to do it. And, memberships are interesting because like it reminds me of public television from back in the day, right? When
Mm.
that was kind of, the thought. That isn't how I started it, but I have been thinking that that's kind of what it's modeled after. Like you have these different levels and you get presents and it's or sometimes you pay monthly towards NPR or whatever it is, right? Or whatever
Mhm.
you think is. that you like.
Nice. And so when you were thinking, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to create this, I'm going to create a membership, which obviously, if you're going to do that, you have to have some technology to support that kind of project. Um, are you just using a regular website, or did you have to invest in some kind of platform to be able to host something like that?
Well, so that's a whole thing that I learned while I was doing it. There's easier ways and harder ways, right?
Hmm.
I did end up having someone build me a WordPress site with MemberPress plugin.
Mm.
But really, I just have the dashboard for the membership. I haven't built out the whole website yet. So, I think there's probably other ways I could have done it. The technology thing was definitely a learning curve. Um, like maybe there's like Thinkific out there where you can just
Hmm.
upload stuff to your dashboard and things like that. So, I did make an investment to get someone to build that for me. I am definitely tech challenged. But I'm learning. I got
Hmm.
Active Campaign for my email, and I have the MemberPress, and I have Stripe. So I had someone kind of help me set all that up.
Hmm.
But now I'm pretty much managing it. I have someone that, is helping me a little bit. But, the thing is, like on Facebook, you can upload things into Facebook when you make a group, and Facebook has like a guide, so you can upload PDFs and things like that. The only thing about Facebook is they have a rule that you can't have a paid membership site in Facebook. So if
Oh,
you housed it all right there, you'd be breaking the terms of service. I mean, you can house it there, but it can't just be housed there.
gotcha.
But I have some Facebook friends that are like power admins, and they're saying that that's going to change. They're going to start to allow people to house their membership sites and them be paid on Facebook. Now I'm kind of a rule follower, so
Hmm.
but there's ways to do it. It doesn't have to be super complicated.
Well, I think that's helpful, because I do
Yes.
think technology can be a really intimidating process for people when they're trying to build and create something. If they don't feel that they have a sense of mastery or understanding on how to utilize these tools, then it becomes a barrier to actually taking action, right? Because there's that intimidation piece. So that's helpful to hear that even somebody who, says that they're tech challenged can do it and can find a way to do it and be successful with it. I think that's really helpful.
Absolutely. And I am definitely, and because I grew up half my life without the internet. So,
Oh, yeah.
but the other thing too is like you have to make a decision that you're going to learn it. That's the other part, which I think I'm still in negotiations with myself. I'm like, how can I make more money to pay someone to do this? But so there's that too. But you can get to that point,
Hmm.
because of course you don't want to spend all your time learning technology. But learning like some basic things isn't a bad thing. And I think if you just, what I've had to do is be like, okay, I'm going to learn this,
Right.
just like we do everything else,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely. Last year I bought into like a customer relationship management
Hmm.
program. It's a software platform, and I'm still building it. It's in process for a while, but I had to do that, and I spent days just painfully watching videos, and then taking hours to create like a paragraph with a couple of graphics on the thing. Anyway, it is an investment, but in the end, I'm confident that investing in the tech and learning the technology will be of benefit to me, because I want to hire somebody to do it and to manage it for me, but I also want to have the knowledge base so that if anything ever happens to that person, I actually know what to go in and do to keep things moving and flowing. Which that's the other piece, right? If you don't have that knowledge and you're totally dependent on somebody else to do it, that's not a good feeling place to be, at least not for me. I'm happy to not be the expert, but to know just enough that if something happened to the person, that I could go in and temporarily manage it while I find the next person to help with the process. But it's painful to force yourself to learn something new, especially if it's not intuitive. And like some of these sites really aren't intuitive. They're really designed more for those people that have the background in technology. It's not like a drop and drag. This is easy. No, it's not.
And sometimes I can't even drop and drag well. I'm not even gonna lie. Like literally some days I can spend 3 hours just trying to make a little Canva thing. It's like ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
But I would definitely say, get someone to help you build your main thing, get someone to help you set up your email situation and your payment situation, and maybe some of your branding and marketing.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So when you decided, okay, I'm going to launch this, how much time did you give yourself to market this brand new membership before you launched in December?
So I think I gave myself, I think I did the whole thing in like 40 to 50 days.
That's fast.
Yeah, it was intense.
Wow. Okay. So, what was your strategy in terms of marketing a product that had never been offered before? It's online. People are going to buy in on either a monthly or, biannually or annual basis. How were you thinking about promoting this to get people to buy into the lounge?
So one thing that I will tell you is for years, I've been a member of a branding group. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, since 2017. I've never had time to do anything because, I've been doing all the other things. So I've been learning about things a little bit along the way, just paying attention, not really doing anything in the dashboard or anything like that. So then I decided to invest in doing a program with this person that was like a 3-month program.
Mm.
And so I used her framework to do this. So I didn't come up with this on my own by any means. So I basically started out with nothing. I mean, I had no landing page. I had the idea of what I wanted to do,
Mhm.
but I had to figure out my target market and all these things, right? And so I didn't even have a landing page. I didn't know how to build a landing page, nothing like that. So yeah. So, but I'll tell you what the process was. So basically a landing page is a page like you could send someone to so that you can have their email address so that you can give them information in the future. So like if you can have just that. So like mine is like www.artflowlounge.com/waitlist. And it
Okay.
literally is just a landing page. It tells you a little bit and then people give me their, so that's how it started. So I just would go live and I wasn't trying to like sell the Art Flow Lounge, but I was talking about my knowledge of the arts and the benefits that the arts bring and the problems that I can help solve through offering the lounge. So,
Mm.
looking at speaking marketing wise, right? So looking at people's pain points, looking at what they need, is there a problem to be solved? Is there an ongoing problem that needs to be solved? That's the other thing, right? You don't want it to be something that ends because it's an ongoing membership.
Mhm.
So those are the things I kind of had to look at and like, is my thing the right thing for this? Is this going to work? And, we're new in it still, but so that was kind of what I did. And then I would go live on Facebook and talk about it. And, going live is a whole thing, but I've been live streaming since I think 2015. I started live streaming on another platform called Periscope, and I used to live paint on
Oh,
there. Yeah, back,
yes.
and I became like a gold badge broadcaster, and I would get paid when people would give me hearts. They'd tap the screen and give hearts, and then you'd get paid. Yeah, it's just like Twitch.
Wow.
Younger people are gonna know it, but us, we're like, what? Can you believe that people tap the screen? We're in our rocking chairs over here. But anyway, so yeah, so I did that, and I think that helped prepare me to be able to do something like this. But, on Facebook, there's billions of people on there, and it's not set up as a live streaming platform like Periscope was. So like sometimes I wouldn't even know if anybody was there.
Mm,
So it really just it does require you putting yourself out there, in a way that is sometimes very uncomfortable.
yeah.
But
I think the live streaming videos are super intimidating because at least if you do a video in Zoom, let's say, then you can download it and upload it into an editing software program, and you can remove certain things and make it a little more flawless. It's kind of like, you know, putting on makeup or something, so that you can change the overall appearance of it. But with a live stream, that's it. That's you got one chance. And if you get it wrong,
yeah,
you get it wrong.
what's cool about most things that I've done in my life is that I just do them.
Mm,
I mean, I just do them. And of course, I have anxiety. I'm not sitting over here like, yeah, I just do it and I feel great. And, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
no.
saying that I just do it and it's scary and I just do it. And yes, I have anxiety about it. And
Mhm.
yes, I do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. And all the things, but we're not ever going to get what we want, or we're not going to be able to share what we want to share if we don't take risk and do things that are uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And, I think that's a thing when people see someone doing something that they may want to do, or they ascribe success to someone, things like that. We think that, those people don't suffer, or they don't have a hard time, or they don't feel insecure,
Right.
and it's not true. We all do. Because I know a lot of people with a lot of success, and there are not very many of them that don't feel that way, that don't have the days where they're like, oh my God, I'm just bleh, you know?
Yeah,
I think it's really
definitely.
important for people to know that you can't wait until you feel so good about yourself, or until, you know, everything's perfect, because it's never going to be. That's just
Right.
not life.
Right.
So, yeah, going live. So got the landing page, started going live about things. So really wasn't hard pressing join my membership, but just really sharing my knowledge and letting people know who I am,
Mhm.
those kind of things. And then also writing content,
Mm.
writing content, deciding what platform you want to, where your demographic is basically. Is it on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever? And then writing content. And there's all different strategies about writing content, um, different kinds, right? Some to show your expertise, some to kind of, Des calls it disruptive content writing, to where you're kind of
Oh.
having a strong opinion. Um,
Oh.
yeah, and I should say, her program is called the Recurring Revenue Program. So it's on, you can find her on Facebook, because I really did learn a lot from that. So once I did that for about 3 weeks, and the goal was to build up the wait list, right? So to
Mhm.
have people that were interested sign up for the wait list. And I did a founding members launch. So this wasn't like hardcore public launch, which is going to be like, I'll tell you in a minute. So this was just to have 20 founding members, at a certain rate that will be their locked in rate for life. This is what
Oh.
it is. You're going to give me feedback as being a founding member, this kind of thing. And then once that 3 weeks was up, I had a 7-day opening where they could join for 7 days. During that 7 days, I sent out emails. And I was also sending out an email once a week, building up to that 7 days. So, the idea is people feel like, oh, I'm bugging people. Oh, this is too much, but really it can never be enough. You cannot be in front of people enough, because
Mm.
our attention spans are very short. That's why the video thing is so powerful, or the live streaming is so powerful, because, when you go on Facebook and you hit one video, and then it'll just start streaming all the videos, and then you fall into the rabbit hole. I don't know if that ever happens to you, but that
Sure.
and the video is just what people are looking at now, rather than reading. People still read, but especially when they get on
Mhm.
social media, they want that quick hit, you know?
Well, the algorithm also prefers the video, especially a
But
Facebook Live. If you're using Facebook in terms of like the way they prioritize a live that's going directly from them versus a video that's uploaded later, right?
right,
Your live is going to get pushed out into your connections more than if you just wrote something and
yeah,
put a picture up. So that's
exactly,
positive too.
right. And then also networking online, just like you do in the real world. So,
Mm.
finding other Facebook groups that interest you and that your target market might be in, building those relationships.
And when you were doing that and connecting online, were you sending out direct messaging? Like I know I've seen some people will like, I don't really use Facebook Messenger that much, but I've seen that happen. And how did you go about that in a way that just that feels aligned and done with integrity?
Well, no, I never did DMs
Hmm.
trying
Hmm.
to sell something or anything like that. If I found someone that I wanted to be friends with that I thought was interesting, um, I would friend request them, and then I would introduce myself through a quick video. And I would say, I saw this on your profile. I thought it was really interesting because a lot of the people that you're going to connect with in that way are also networking.
Gotcha.
But I think the last thing you want to do is send someone to join my group, or this is what I sell, or blah, 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 because it's a lot,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it really turns a lot of people off. So I
Right.
didn't do any of that. I just treat people like I would in real life. That's what I do.
Mm,
And so when I go into a group, it takes time to build the relationships. But I think it is something that you can do is find a membership or some kind of group if you're interested in doing something like this, where there's like-minded people trying to build something similar because you help each other, right?
absolutely.
Like some of the guests that I'm having in my membership are from the recurring revenue program. So we're swapping guest expert, that's what we call it, guest expert spots. So, yeah, I think no one likes cold calling. No one wants to be cold called. We
No.
have, but taking time, it takes time
Mhm.
and consistency. The biggest thing is consistency. So doing a little bit every day.
Mm.
When we start, of course, those weeks that I was launching and stuff were intense, and my public launch will be intense. But that in between space, being consistent,
Mhm.
which is the hardest thing about anything.
Yeah, it is.
But with this membership site, and I think when you have something you're trying to get out into the world, you have to keep yourself in front of people.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I always think about like channeling my inner tortoise, because I can be the rabbit. I can be the rabbit and kind of burn myself out and then just want to like bury myself in a hole and isolate and retreat from all the things that I have going on. But I have way too many balls in the air to do that
I know.
without causing like, a serious challenge for me when I'm ready to like bring my head back out and come back into society. So I like really have to just, align with the tortoise and like I can get done what I can get done today. There's enough time for me to accomplish all my goals that I have for myself. There's enough time for me to complete this process without stressing myself out. I have all the time, right? If I say those kinds of things to myself, it helps me to stay consistent and to not feel this burden of like, I have to do it all right now. And then I can just do the one thing today, the one thing tomorrow, the one thing the next day. And then it doesn't feel so stressful and overwhelming. Um, I don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, my feeling is when I get overwhelmed like that, I get into freeze, like you're saying, go into a cave or whatever. That's freeze for sure. And it is hard sometimes to get out of that. But I have learned that, a lot of times I'll spend more times procrastinating or in angst over something then it takes like 1 minute of that time that I spent the 2 hours stressed and procrastinating, So I think those are some of the things I've learned in having my own businesses over the years. And then just realizing like what a privilege it is to have the internet
Mm,
and to be able to have a business like this and to be able to just like go on your free Facebook page and like introduce yourself, whether you're trying to promote your business as a therapist or whatever it is. I mean, what
mhm.
a privilege that you get
Yeah.
to go online and do that. And, that you can even go online and do something positive and doing something to try to help people and educate people and learn from people. So
Yeah.
I consider it as a privilege. And I know that may sound really strange to a lot of people, but, I remember back in the day, I have it right next to me, carrying around a little portfolio with pictures of my art and going into galleries or little coffee shops or whatever it was to try to get them to show my art and that's how I sold my art, by a little picture in a book.
And did you, I still have like the little containers of like all the like little
Yes.
slides that you would put in the carousel of my art.
Yes. And then like you would have to, if you applied to galleries, you would have to take your slides and put them in the plastic sheets and mark them just right. And I mean, younger people have no idea what we went through. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays you can like show a piece of art and it can go viral and you can meet like Frida Kahlo's niece or whatever,
Yeah,
like
it's so true.
all these degrees of separation have been removed from the internet. And that can
Yeah.
be positive and negative. So you have to be careful on the internet because everybody's an expert.
Mm,
Or, like if you're looking for a program and things like that, really research it, really vet it, really like, if you're investing in some kind of training and marketing or I guess
mhm.
anything, but online, there's people that are talking about, millionaire and all that stuff. So,
Sure. I think sometimes too, like we have to really treat some of those things as like there's a lot of I don't want to say fraudulent, but maybe like misrepresentation of what they're actually achieving. And I agree with you in terms of like connecting in a membership community where you can be building and working towards something that with other people that are doing the same things. I've been doing that as well. And one of the topics that has come up in the group that I participate in has been this idea of building in public and
mhm,
how when we can build in public and we can speak from a very transparent place, then we're showing through the data of what we're actually achieving and what we're doing versus creating like a mythical viewpoint of what's possible.
right. Yeah, it's very important to show up authentically and transparently, as much as you feel comfortable with. And that's a fine line too.
Mhm, mhm.
If you're too vulnerable, that can hurt your business. If you're not vulnerable enough, that can hurt your business. I think the biggest thing to remember is just how powerful the internet is and how powerful just your voice and your face and your, video. And it's just so literally powerful on the brain and people's emotions. It's a big impact.
Mhm.
And we talk about it all the time, kind of in the like, I guess, more negative way, like, what are we doing to our children and all the things. But I think it's just a beautiful thing too, and can be used for good, like all things, I guess.
Yeah, right. The duality, life's many, many, many dualities. Everything that is good also has some kind of flaw or con or, a different perspective, but they exist at the same time. And um, we'll always find negative if we're looking for negative. And we have to really consciously orient ourselves to look for the positive, because our brain has that negativity bias. So it's like, stay safe, stay small, stay safe.
Mhm.
And so if we're listening to the negative stuff, we won't take those risks and create something that is going to be of benefit to ourselves and bring us joy in the work that we do, but also create a space where other people can grow and have that space to do their own work and heal and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
I think one thing too that's interesting is this thought of like when we exchange services, right? Because there's like a huge thing with people, I think, and maybe even me sometimes, like everything has to be exchanged for money. But back in
Mm.
the olden days, like when I was just doing my art full time, I did so much bartering, y'all. Like I remember one time I made this like hand painted bulletin board for a hairdresser for her to do my hair. Just all this bartering. And I kind of feel like that is coming back in the work I'm doing now. And then things come out of that. Like, for instance, I was a guest speaker in another person's group, and then someone from her membership joined mine. And then she recommended me to the bank that she works at. And I'm going to do like a corporate expressive arts experiential, which how cool is that?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's like, we do these things, we throw that net out there and you
Mhm.
don't know what things are going to come back from it. And just like when I talk about it, if you could see me right now, I'm smiling. You hopefully can hear it in my voice because it just brings me so much joy that, like, people will try something that they have no idea about. You take them on this little journey, they
Mhm.
get something so powerful out of it, and then they want to share it with other people.
Yeah,
That's so cool, right?
that is really cool. I think too, it speaks to the idea of the benefits of collaboration versus competition, which that like sometimes that can feel like, well, do I want to bring somebody into my area where they're kind of doing something similar to me? Do I still want to do that? And it's being able to be secure in oneself to say that the only competition that I have is me, and inviting somebody else into the space to celebrate their work and what they're doing. If somebody that was a customer of mine, let's say, decides to pair with them, that's okay because that person's more in align with what that person needs than I was. And so it's a win-win situation because that person's still, getting their needs met.
Right. I mean, I think it's really a hard concept, in our capitalistic system because we're raised, be independent and grind and do all the things. And I think, you think back to a question you asked me in the beginning, why did you want to create the community? Well, the community was the big part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I know nothing happens not in community, or not as much happens, or it happens in a not pleasant way typically, or doesn't end up well. We look at it, we see it all the time. Really successful people live alone in their big mansion, with no
Yeah.
one. That's not how the life I want. And I will tell you, it's very idealistic, right? Like, invite these people into our space, even if they do the exact same thing. It's okay if someone leaves, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, and it kind of stings. I'm not even gonna kid, but
Mhm.
it's such a beautiful practice, speaking back to all the things you just said,
Mhm.
because that's how I want to show up in the world, even if it stings a little bit sometimes,
Mhm.
because that's ego, right? That's ego.
Right.
And so, yes. And the other thing too is I can only serve so many people. There's only certain people that are supposed to come work with me, and then they're going to be done with me and it's time to move on or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So when you think reframe, right? Us reframing people.
Yep.
I always am trying to reframe in that, yeah, there's one of me and one of you, and there's billions of people in the world.
Mhm.
So you're gonna find enough people to support your dream, and that you can help.
Mhm.
And there's enough for us.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I really try to work hard at the enough statements. And usually in the morning, I'll like get up and meditate and usually start my day with those kinds of reflective uh, thoughts of there is enough time, there is enough space, there's all of that. Because it's so easy to get hooked into the never enough.
Mhm.
And that just, I can just even saying it, I can feel the stress like whoop,
Yeah.
rise up within me. Because that's usually what, we've been taught that there isn't enough time, that there isn't enough money, that there isn't enough. And I don't think that that's true.
No,
Um,
I mean, I think those are all constructs, right? Because like if you
yeah.
travel to another country, like let's just say um, Costa Rica. I've been to Costa Rica. It's the same amount of time if I'm here or if I'm in Costa Rica,
Mm-hmm.
but time feels so different in Costa Rica. And I
Mm,
wasn't even there like on a vacation. I went there for my 200-hour yoga teacher training for 3 weeks, which sounds fabulous, right? Which it was in many ways, but it was like 10 hours a day of learning yoga. And I am not an athlete. Okay. That's the great thing about my community. We do yoga in a chair. We do like yoga for people that can't do yoga. But, we would do all that. And it was like time wasn't even there. So it was getting into flow, right? Back to my
mhm.
art flow lounge. Flow is definitely one of my main focuses in most things that I'm trying to do. And I just noticed like the difference in culture, like how people move in the world and how they prepare their food. And like everything was just, it felt so much slower and so much more loving and caring. And I'm not saying that can't happen in the United States, but it hasn't really been my experience. Um,
Right.
it's like hustle, hustle, hustle from I think the day I
Yeah.
was born. um, and that's my choice, but it's not totally my choice. We live in a world that requires that in a lot of ways. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to shift those things. But these are just things I've been thinking about, and how different it was, and how much just like everything tasted better and smelled better and felt better. And even though I was like so sore, and y'all, before I went to go become a yoga teacher, I wasn't even doing yoga.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So when I tell you that you got to just try stuff, I'm not making it up.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it happens, I met this woman, online, and we had a talk. She was saying, I have this program online. I'm like, yeah, I won't do it. And then she's like, oh, well, I have a yoga teacher training in Costa Rica. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll definitely do that. Just because I like to travel. And then I was like, well, I'm an art therapist, so I could offer like some therapeutic art stuff. And so I was doing that and taking the training and planning the biggest Stars of Hope event that ever happened in response to Hurricane Michael in Florida
Oh,
while in
wow.
yoga teacher training. So that just says, Stephanie, you do too much. And I've slowed down a bit since then. But I will say that I feel like that experience of that flow, because what's the first memory I had? Like this whole sensory memory, right?
Mhm.
And I was able to do all of those things and still feel like that. That's
That's pretty
incredible.
amazing. Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. There is something to be said, I think, about the slowing down process and giving ourselves the time to slow down. Um, it it's important. And I think that there's an ability to accomplish more when we do slow down versus when we're like geared up and moving really, really fast.
yeah, like when we have this list, right? And we're starting our day with this big old list, and there's like no room for, I think like the reason I'm just thinking of this right now. Like the reason I think that was so powerful was because, okay, I was in my body, right?
Hmm.
I'm learning all this stuff, but I'm learning it through my body. I can't learn it just in my brain. I have to experience it. And then we were at this place where they were making like fresh food, and it was
Mm.
like even vegan, I think. I'm not vegan, but it was cool, because I hadn't eaten some of this stuff. But it's interesting because I did accomplish a lot, and it was stressful sometimes, right? Because the Wi-Fi wasn't good and I was having to make connections about the project. But it just didn't feel like it would feel if I was doing that here.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
and I do think that it is because the whole vibe was just, it's okay.
Mhm.
and I was doing it sensory. I wasn't doing it just cognitive.
Yeah.
So, and I was getting to do the art stuff too. So,
It
but yeah,
sounds
we
like it
did.
was fun.
It was super fun. I went
Mhm.
back 2 more times and led retreats with the lady. It was fun.
Wow. That's awesome.
And
Would you ever do that for yourself? Would you ever like lead an art
yeah,
flow retreat like that?
yeah. I was just going to say, and that is one of our future goals when we can
Nice.
be more in the world safely again. Everybody, not just some people, when everybody feels okay with that. I would love to do an art flow retreat.
That
And we
would
live
be
in Florida,
awesome.
so we could definitely, I mean, it's a destination people love to come to.
That is
I think
true.
it's a little bit harder to do them outside of the country. It's just a lot of logistics and stuff. But
Oh, for sure.
maybe I'll start off in Florida. And you don't live that far from me, so
No, I don't. It's just a couple hours.
yeah,
Mhm. For sure.
we might be art flowing together.
That would be welcome. I have taken a break from like my own art making. At the end of last year, I had been doing like a weekly process painting class, and that was just like gold. It was so good. And I'm missing it, but I'm hoping to sign up again the next go around at the end of February. I had to I couldn't sign up for the beginning because I would miss too many weeks, and I was like, I don't, I can't sign up if I can't be there for
Yeah,
just like two of them. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm always miss it when I'm not actively doing something on my own. Um, and making art with clients is not the same as being able to just be in your own personal art making practice where it's just you and the canvas or whatever it is that you're doing. You you don't have to give that attention elsewhere. You can't get into a flow state if you're in proximity with somebody else where you're like helping them with their process. So
that's not good.
right. You have to be like focusing on them.
Yes, that whole thing, that whole therapy.
Yeah, the therapy part of it. So
I will tell you that since I started my art flow lounge, I am doing more art than I have done in a long time.
mm,
And even I created a whole little collection for Valentine's Day. But I call it Healing Hearts because I think we all need a lot of healing right now. So, um, but it was so fun to do. And yeah, just opening myself up to doing this other thing. And then that is feeding back into my work with my clients. So,
nice.
kind of igniting this, whatever this was for me, kind of just lit up everything again.
I love that. So it's not an either or, it's a both and that, right?
Yes.
Taking away some time from the one-on-one to create this, now reviving your passion to be able to have the energy to bring back into the work that you're doing with your one-on-one clients. Really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Well, if people want to learn more about the Art Flow Lounge, to sign up to receive any information about what's going on there, where can they find you?
Okay. If they want to sign up for the wait list for our next launch, it's www.artflowlounge.com/membership. If they want to go ahead and apply and learn more about it, it's a more extensive explanation of what it is. They can do that at Artflow Lounge /apply.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So hopefully some people might be interested,
Yeah.
learn more about what you're doing in there and how they might be able to benefit. I think, we could all use more meditation, yoga, and art and writing in our lives right now. So Thank you so much for being here and for sharing about your process with us.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad that we got to talk about it. It makes me excited. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Creative Psychotherapist Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation with Stephanie and I. I just appreciate her energy and how she's approaching uh, delivering services that are beneficial and therapeutic and supportive in a way that is not clinical, because I think people need more support than just what we provide clinically. And sometimes there's like a lack of that kind of programming available, or people don't know where to look. And so um, I highly recommend you check out what she's doing with the Art Flow Lounge, and yeah, and just kind of follow her work and see how she grows the program. I know I'm going to. Well, I look forward to talking with you again next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Creative Psychotherapist. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For show notes, downloads, and additional resources, head over to the website at www.creativeclinicianscorner.com.